Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here for lunch and for what I'm sure will be a wonderful conversation with our panelists and the assembled folks. So since we're such a small group, I have a couple of pre-selected questions that I've offered to the panelists, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of opportunity for you also to either offer your own experience, because I know that there are some experienced members in the audience who have also engaged in community engaged teaching. So we would love to hear from you as well. I'm Michelle Decker. I am a faculty co-director at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm also an English professor at Scripps. I have dabbled in community engaged teaching myself. My intention with this series, this is the second of two for this semester, was to bring experienced people together and also people who are just curious about the kind of mechanics and logistics and philosophies of community-based teaching. Because I know for me, when I started about 3 years ago, we are now at the end of the Mellon Initiative grant at Scripps. I had no idea about how in the world to go about doing this kind of work, and I wished that I had known whom to ask. So this is one of those, I think, sadly rare moments where people are coming together from across the colleges to share their experience. My intention as a faculty co-director at the CTL for the next 3 years is to build on the momentum that we are hopefully accruing this semester to continue this, not just through panelists, but perhaps like a faculty learning community, have ways to have people who are interested in this topic, which I think is so vital to our pedagogy, share experiences, troubleshoot in a more sustained way, rather than working by ourselves and wondering what in the world to do when we come across challenges, or actually have victories to share. So my thought for next spring, based on actually our prior panel that we had, some of the panelists and audience members thought it would be great to have a mixer with community organizations who are looking for partners and for faculty who are looking for projects. So I'm going to probably, in partnership with the Mellon Initiative at Scripps, sponsor something like that in the spring. So I would encourage all of you to let your curious colleagues know that will be forthcoming. And also, as I said, I'm probably going to be offering like a faculty learning community, which would just more than having like a workshop that would be bigger. It would be more small scale and perhaps like around reading a book, or just something that would be of use to the folks in that, and would meet more often throughout the semester. So that's what I'm thinking. I thought what we could do to start out with is just have our panelists introduce themselves, say what school they are from, and also talk in brief about what their experience has been with community engaged teaching, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Nancy Neiman. I teach politics at Scripps College. And my experience with community engaged teaching is twofold and also, well, maybe threefold. So I teach a political economy of food class, and I have a required internship component as part of that class, and I've had students working with community partners for almost 15 years now, and I've developed some deep relationships there. I also sat on the Napier Council at Pilgrim Place and have taught my political economy of food class as a Napier course, going on, I've done it twice, and my third course is this spring. And I've had an amazing experience with elder co-learners in that class. And I've also taught Inside Out courses, which I think is community engaged teaching as well. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Kizer and I teach sociology at Kizer, and I teach two community engaged classes. I teach Intro to Sociology, where we partner with the Homework Club, and that is a collaboration between the Pomona Unified School District and the Pomona Public Library Foundation. and they provide free tutoring for promoting Friends School District students. And so my students are tutors, and they also research a social problem, and they write and illustrate a children's book throughout the semester. And at the end of the semester, we get them like professionally printed so they look like real books. And then we have a book festival, and so next month we're going to have the students from the Homework Club come to Kizer, and we're going to read the books and have snacks and have goodie bags for them, which is really cool. And then my other class is Race and Ethnic Relations, and that's a collaboration with Pilgrim Place, the National Negro Council for the National Council for Negro Women, and then the NAACP Pomona Valley branch. And together they host the Circle of Chairs, which is like an interracial dialogue. And they host it, like, I think at this point, like once a quarter. And so we work with them to like host the event, and my students come and participate, and it's really great. In that class, the students produce podcasts based on a social problem, so they translate social science research into an accessible format. And so we're having a listening party next month too, where the elders are coming, and we're opening it to the Kizer community, or the 5C community. So those are my two experiences.
I'm Tomás Sandoval. I'm a professor in the Intercollegiate Department of Chicana Latina Studies and at the History Department at Claremont College. And I'm also a graduate of Claremont College, so I've had two different kind of Claremont experiences. But I'd say before, I'm like here, I've been, I was the inaugural faculty coordinator of the Draper Center for Community Partnerships at Pomona. I was part of the group who created Napier, who came in at the end of Napier when it was getting set up. But beyond classes that I teach, every class I teach has a public component. I would not call that partnership in the restrictive sense, but less about that I think is important for my lineage. After Claremont McKenna, I was at UC Berkeley. My intellectual connections and commitments are all around the world, broadly speaking, of comparative ethnic studies. And that's where my connection to service learning and community engagement comes. And then my first faculty position was at California State University, Monterey Bay, who, if you don't know about, you should look up, because they're like a national leader in service learning. Service learning is a graduation requirement. You take one class in the lower division, you take one class inside of your major in the upper division. And that's the place where I got sort of, I would say, proselytized and given sort of more than just an ethic and overall sort of, committed vision, but really a practice and an ethics of practice. And so, yeah.
I'm Ethan Van Arnam. I teach in chemistry at Keck Science. And my community-based teaching involvement has been pretty recent. I've taught a introductory science class. We do this combined intro biological chemistry. So it's a team talk course between a chemist and a biologist. I've been the chemist, and it has a laboratory component as well. And we've run 2 community-based projects in recent years in that class. So we did one during the pandemic, online, kind of remotely partnering with community organizations, in which this was in the lab part of the class. Students worked on research projects or developing materials for the patients that these organizations serve that had a science component. And then last year, we did a project collaborating with a city council member in Adelanto, in the high desert, looking at water quality. So there were community concerns about water quality there, and so basically our whole lab curriculum for the semester was doing various types of water analysis. So this is an intro class, so these are all first-year students, so we're excited to kind of get that off the ground at Keck Science, to get not only more community engagement in our classes, but especially at the intro level.
I'm Julie Medero. I'm in the computer science department at Harvey Mudd, and I feel like a total imposter up here. because I haven't done community engagement in any of my courses yet. Where I've done it is in my summer research program, particularly getting students in the summer after their first year working with local NGOs on projects to help them get out and off campus and appreciate what they have learned in that first year, what skills they have to offer, and also how they can work with people with different skills and different backgrounds to really accomplish something meaningful. I've also worked on a couple of senior capstone projects in the How Do You Med Clinic program, where those projects were pro bono projects for different community groups. So we worked on one with Sustainable Claremont that was collaborating with the Claremont Unified School District, and another one with a community group in Southgate looking at air quality and how we move past right now it's kind of really easy to get air quality sensors if you're a community organization in an area that we know has air quality issues, and much harder to figure out how to do anything useful with them beyond confirming that yes, your air is bad. And so they came looking for a collaboration to try and figure out, what do we actually do with this data? How do we get that out to members of our community to help them make decisions? How do we leverage it to advocate for policy changes that could actually improve our situation? Basically that, please don't keep coming in and studying us and telling us that the air we're breathing is bad for us, but help us figure out what comes next.
Thank you for those synopses. It's clear to me with this panel, as with our prior panel, that there are different models for what experiential learning, service learning, community engaged learning, whatever we want to call it, which I think it's kind of like under this broader umbrella of community engaged pedagogy, which is to say there is some aspect of our work that is not simply theoretical and not simply inward facing, but is looking outward to application or partnership with the community, whether that's in Claremont or in the broader LA area or in the world. So I guess my next question, I have sort of like two categories of questions, and I want to offer a broad question, and maybe then other folks in the audience can jump in with their specific, maybe like practical questions. But within these models, we have internships, we have partnerships with with the Napier Initiative, which is a kind of pre-existing program, with the Inside Out program, which is also, for those of you who aren't familiar, kind of preset curriculum where you go in with training for faculty, and you go into prisons. And then you also have sort of the DIY, make an entire class from scratch that is in some way facing the community, right? Which is what I did. So I'm kind of like a plunge in that, just take the plunge. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's make this whole thing from scratch. I wonder if you all could talk a little bit about how you got your start, if there was something that you wish that you had known before embarking in this work that would be, a kind of practical lesson learned. Would you suggest starting kind of like whole cloth, or doing a more like one-off assignment, project-based, perspective or tack, I guess? So I don't know if anybody wants to take that, but challenges, things you wish you'd known, and or whether or not you would recommend like designing a whole class or just kind of taking a smaller bite. You can take any or all of those questions.
Yes, I'm happy to start. So I did in fact design my political economy of food class around, working with community partners. And I actually do use the word partner here intentionally, because they are community partners. But that said, it's all about relationship building. And so, I started by like having people introduce me to people who and then having like long conversations and starting the project